The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Let me paint you a picture. Two brilliant young entrepreneurs stand on a rain-soaked street corner, their dream dissolving as quickly as the downpour soaking through their clothes. They're arguing, voices rising with frustration, years of work, countless sleepless nights, all their savings, crumbling. The dot-com bubble has burst, the money's gone, and they can't even agree on which direction to walk home. So they split up, each heading off alone into the storm, lost in every sense of the word. One of those soaked, defeated young men was Eric Ries. His company? A platform for college students to create online profiles and share them with employers. Ring any bells? This was 5 full years before Facebook would explode onto the scene. They had the right idea, the perfect timing, a talented team, and yet they were doomed from the very first day. Why? That's the mystery we're about to solve together. That miserable night in the rain planted a seed that would grow into a revolution. It pushed Ries to ask a question that would reshape modern business. How can we figure out what actually works faster and ditch what doesn't? What he discovered became the Lean Startup, and it's way more than just another business book gathering dust on shelves. Since its release, it's sparked a global movement, adopted by everyone from scrappy garage startups to Fortune 500 boardrooms, from Silicon Valley innovators to, believe it or not, the Pentagon. This book tears away the mystique surrounding entrepreneurship, revealing that success isn't about having some magical genius or being born under the right star. It's about following a scientific process that anyone can learn, practice, and replicate. By the time we finish today, you'll understand this process inside and out. You'll see why most new ventures crash and burn, and more importantly, you'll have a clear roadmap to make sure yours doesn't. You'll discover a fresh way of thinking that can transform your ideas into reality without wasting your most precious resource, your time. So, let's dive in. For generations, we've been fed a certain story about how great things come to be. You know the one. Visionary entrepreneur has brilliant flash of inspiration, crafts an elaborate business plan, assembles a dream team, builds the product in secret, and then the grand unveiling. If they built it well enough, customers will come stampeding. We've seen this fairy tale in countless movies, read it in business magazines. It's the modern version of rags to riches, making success seem almost inevitable if you just have the right stuff. Here's the thing, though. Eric Ries is here to tell us this story is complete nonsense. After living through the spectacular failure of his first company and working alongside hundreds of other entrepreneurs, he came to a sobering realization. Most startups fail. Most new products flop. Most ventures never reach their potential. And here's the kicker. It's not because people lack passion, brilliance, or work ethic. They fail because they're following a broken map. Think of a traditional business plan like planning to launch a rocket into space. Every single detail gets calculated beforehand. Every thrust, every course correction, every stage meticulously prescribed. The problem? Even the tiniest error in your initial assumptions can lead to catastrophe thousands of miles down the road. You achieve failure perfectly, faithfully executing a fundamentally flawed plan. Ries argues that a startup isn't a rocket ship at all. It's more like driving through an unfamiliar city at night, with fog rolling in. You've got a destination in mind, your vision, but the exact route? Total mystery. There will be unexpected turns, construction detours, dead ends. You can't just slam the accelerator to the floor and pray. You need your hands on the wheel, constantly adjusting based on what the road's telling you. And that's the essence of the Lean Startup. It's a method for driving a startup through the fog. Instead of executing some elaborate plan built on a mountain of assumptions, you make continuous adjustments using what Ries calls the build, measure, learn feedback loop. This loop is the beating heart of the entire philosophy. Sounds simple, right? But it represents a radical shift in how we think about progress. Let's break it down. The traditional definition of progress asks, are we executing our plan on schedule and within budget? Are we building what we said we'd build? But Ries asks something far more terrifying. What if we're building something nobody actually wants? In that case, who cares if we do it on time and under budget? This is what he calls achieving failure, building the wrong thing perfectly. The lean startup offers a completely different definition of progress. Progress isn't about making stuff. It's about learning what to make. The most critical function of a startup isn't building, it's learning. Not just any learning, though, but what Ries calls validated learning. Validated learning isn't some feel-good story you spin for investors after things go sideways. It's not making excuses after the fact. It's a rigorous, scientific method for proving you've discovered valuable truths about your business. It's demonstrating empirically that you understand what your customers truly want, not what they say they want, or what you think they should want. And the only way to get this validated learning, fire up the build, measure, learn feedback loop. The goal is to sprint through this loop as fast as humanly possible. Speed is everything. Not speed of building, mind you, speed of learning. Let's start with the first part, build. When most people hear build, they picture a finished product, polished and gleaming. But in the lean startup world, the first thing you build isn't a product at all. It's an experiment. Your goal isn't creating the final, world-changing version of your vision. Your goal is building something, anything, that lets you start learning immediately. This is the famous minimum viable product, or MVP. An MVP isn't just your big product shrunk down. It's the absolute simplest version that allows you to begin learning. Its purpose is testing your most fundamental business assumptions, what Ries calls your leap of faith assumptions. Every startup has these scary assumptions that everything else rests on. If they're true, tremendous opportunity awaits. If they're false, total disaster looms. Two leaps of faith matter most: the value hypothesis and the growth hypothesis. The value hypothesis tests whether your product actually delivers value once customers use it. Will people genuinely use this thing? Does it solve a real problem? The growth hypothesis tests how new customers will discover you. How will you actually grow? The MVP is designed to test these hypotheses with minimal effort. And some of the world's most successful companies started with MVPs that were almost comically simple. Take Zappos, now the world's largest online shoe retailer. When founder Nick Swinmurn had his idea, he could have spent years and millions building a massive e-commerce site, leasing warehouses, signing deals with shoe companies. That's the rocket ship approach. Instead, he ran an experiment. His leap of faith assumption was straightforward: will people buy shoes online? To test it, he visited local shoe stores, asked to photograph their inventory, and posted the pictures on a bare-bones website. When someone ordered shoes online, he'd go back to the store, buy them at full price, and ship them himself. That was his MVP. Simple, elegant, designed to answer one question. And he learned so much more in the process. He got real data on customer demand, not from surveys, but from actual behavior. He interacted with real customers, learned about their needs, and allowed himself to be surprised. Zappos wasn't born from a grand master plan. It emerged from a tiny validated learning experiment. Or consider Dropbox. The technology for seamless file synchronization is incredibly complex, requiring years to perfect. Founder Drew Houston knew the real problem. Most people didn't even realize they needed this. He couldn't just ask them. So to test his value hypothesis, he did something brilliantly simple. He made a video. Just a 3-minute screencast demonstrating how the technology would work. He narrated it himself and packed it with nerdy inside jokes targeted at early adopters. That video was his MVP. The result? The beta waiting list exploded from 5,000 people to 75,000 overnight. He'd validated his leap of faith without a fully working product. One of my favorites is Groupon. Today it's worth billions. But it started as a simple WordPress blog. Every day the founders manually posted a new deal. The coupons? They generate PDF files using Apple Mail and send them one by one. In the founders' own words, it was totally ghetto, but it worked. It proved the concept and started the learning process. The MVP lesson is this: any feature, any work, any effort that doesn't directly contribute to learning is waste. Cut it. When in doubt, simplify. Your goal isn't building a perfect product. It's starting the learning loop. Which brings us to the second part: measure. You've built your MVP. You've launched your experiment. Now what? The biggest challenge for any startup is figuring out if you're actually making progress. This is where Ries introduces innovation accounting. Standard accounting measures things like revenue, profit, market share. But early-stage startups have none of these. When you have 0 customers, all your metrics are 0. Easy to dream about overnight success. The real danger comes when you have some customers. Small numbers invite uncomfortable questions. And this is where we stumble into the trap of vanity metrics. Vanity metrics look impressive on paper but tell you nothing about your business's actual health. Things like total registered users or total page views. These numbers almost always trend upward, making us feel great. We celebrate them in meetings, but they often hide the truth. Ries shares a story from his second company, IMVU. They had a graph of total registered users forming a perfect hockey stick curve. Every startup's dream. It looked fantastic, but digging deeper revealed something frightening. They started using cohort analysis. Instead of looking at total users, they examined each group of new customers independently. They'd look at everyone who signed up in February and track what percentage became active or paid. Then they'd do the same for March signups, and so on. What they discovered was shocking. Despite working incredibly hard, shipping new features daily, each new cohort behaved exactly like the previous one. Their product improvements had 0 impact on customer behavior. The hockey stick growth came purely from marketing, not from building a better product. Vanity metrics said they were succeeding. Cohort analysis revealed they were failing. This is the power of innovation accounting. It demands we avoid vanity metrics and focus on actionable metrics. An actionable metric demonstrates clear cause and effect. If we do X, we see a specific, repeatable change in Y. Good metrics follow 3 principles: actionable, accessible, and auditable. Actionable means the metric shows clear cause and effect, enabling learning. Accessible means the reports are simple enough for everyone to understand. Ries says to remember that metrics are people too. Instead of abstract terms like hits, talk about people who visited the website. Auditable means the data is credible. You can spot check with real customers to verify the reports. Using actionable metrics, a startup establishes a baseline with its first MVP. This is your first learning milestone, a clear-eyed look at where you stand right now, regardless of how ugly the numbers are. Then, you start tuning the engine. Every product change, Every new feature, every marketing campaign is an experiment designed to improve a key driver of your business model. You measure the impact on the next customer cohort. Did the numbers improve? Did your experiment work? That's your second learning milestone. This measurement process leads us to the most difficult and most important part: learn. This is the moment of truth. After running experiments and measuring results with innovation accounting, you face the toughest question any entrepreneur confronts. Do we pivot or persevere? Are we making enough progress to believe our original strategy is sound, or do we need a major change? A pivot isn't just any change. It's not tweaking a feature. A pivot is a structured course correction designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis about your product, strategy, and growth engine. It's keeping one foot planted in what you've learned while making a fundamental directional change to seek even greater validated learning. Ask entrepreneurs who've pivoted, and they'll almost always say they wish they'd done it sooner. So why is it so hard? First, vanity metrics can delude us into thinking we're succeeding when we're not. Second, without a clear hypothesis, experiencing complete failure becomes impossible. And without that failure feeling, there's no push for radical change. Third, acknowledging failure is terrifying. We're scared our vision will be dismissed before getting a real shot. The Lean Startup method gives you the courage and data to make this decision. It builds resilient companies because they know if they take a wrong turn, they have tools to recognize it and agility to find a new path. Ries outlines several pivot types. A zoom-in pivot makes a single feature become your entire product. A zoom-out pivot does the reverse. Your whole product becomes one feature of something larger. A customer segment pivot happens when you realize your product solves a real problem, just for different customers than you originally thought. A platform pivot shifts you from a single application to a platform others can build on, or vice versa, and many more. Each pivot is a new strategic hypothesis, meaning the build, measure, learn loop starts fresh. You build a new MVP to test your new hypothesis, establish a new baseline with innovation accounting, and begin tuning the engine again. A successful pivot shows that your new experiments are more productive than before. So now we have the core loop: build, measure, learn. This is your steering wheel. But once you know how to steer, the next question is, how do you accelerate? This is where Ries draws powerful and often counterintuitive lessons from lean manufacturing, pioneered by Toyota. The first key to acceleration is the surprising power of small batches. Imagine stuffing 100 newsletters into envelopes. Most of us would naturally work in large batches. Fold all 100 letters, then stuff all the envelopes, then seal them all. Seems more efficient, right? Wrong. It's actually faster doing them one at a time. Fold one letter, stuff it, seal it, move to the next. This is called single-piece flow. Why is it faster? It eliminates extra time spent sorting and moving piles of half-finished work. But more importantly, it lets you spot problems immediately. What if the letters don't fit the envelopes? With large batches, you wouldn't discover this until the end, after folding all 100 letters. You'd have to start over. With single-piece flow, you catch the problem on the first envelope, wasting nothing. The biggest advantage of small batches is catching quality problems much sooner. This is the origin of Toyota's famous andon cord, which lets any assembly line worker stop the entire line if they spot a defect. Sounds incredibly disruptive, right? But finding and fixing problems immediately far outweighs the cost of temporary stoppages. For startups, the lesson is profound. The ultimate waste is building something customers don't want. Small batches help you discover this sooner, This is why Ries advocates strongly for continuous deployment. At IMVU, instead of bundling hundreds of features into big releases every few months, they made an average of 50 changes daily. Each change was a tiny batch, testable immediately. If something caused problems, broke functionality, or worsened metrics, their immune system automatically rolled it back, forcing the team to investigate the root cause before making further changes. This brings us to the second key to building a truly adaptive organization: the wisdom of the 5 whys. Another technique from Toyota. The core idea is elegantly simple. When something goes wrong, ask why 5 times to reach the problem's root. Taiichi Ohno, father of the Toyota production system, gives this classic example. 1. Why did the machine stop? An overload blew the fuse. 2. Why was there an overload? The bearing wasn't properly lubricated. 3. Why wasn't it lubricated? The lubrication pump wasn't pumping sufficiently. 4. Why wasn't it pumping sufficiently? The pump shaft was worn. 5. Why was the shaft worn? There was no strainer attached, so metal scrap got in. If you just replaced the fuse, the problem would repeat. Getting to the root cause lets you fix the system so it never happens again. Ries says we should do this for any startup failure: technical glitches, failed marketing campaigns, dropping metrics. But there's danger here. The 5 whys can easily become the 5 blames, with teammates pointing fingers. The goal is understanding that chronic problems stem from bad processes, not bad people. When mistakes happen, the mantra should be, "Shame on us for making this mistake, so easy to make." The 5 whys acts as a natural speed regulator. More problems force you to invest more time in solutions. As those investments pay off, crises decrease, and the team naturally accelerates again. This builds an adaptive organization that learns and improves automatically. Finally, once a startup's engine runs smoothly and accelerates, it needs to understand what's actually driving growth. Ries identifies 3 engines of growth. Successful startups usually focus on just one. The sticky engine of growth is about long-term customer retention. Think mobile phone providers or subscription services. The goal is making your product so engaging customers stick around. The key metric is churn rate, the fraction of customers who leave in any period. If your new customer acquisition rate exceeds your churn rate, you'll grow. Growth speed depends on your rate of compounding. If growth is flat, the answer isn't necessarily more marketing. It's making the product more engaging for existing customers. The viral engine of growth happens when growth occurs automatically as customers use the product. When you get an email from a Hotmail account, there's that little link, "Get your free email at Hotmail." Every email sent becomes a mini advertisement. This engine's speed is determined by one number, the viral coefficient, measuring how many new customers each existing customer brings in. If the coefficient is 0.5, every 10 customers bring in 5 more. That loop eventually dies. But if the coefficient exceeds 1, if every customer brings in more than 1 friend on average, you have exponential growth. The paid engine of growth is the most traditional. You pay to acquire customers through advertising or sales forces. This engine is sustainable as long as customer acquisition cost is less than the revenue from that customer over their lifetime. The difference between lifetime value and acquisition cost is your marginal profit, which you reinvest to acquire more customers. The bigger the margin, the faster the engine turns. Understanding which engine powers your business is critical because it tells you which metrics to obsess over. If you're a viral business, focus entirely on increasing the viral coefficient. If you're paid, obsess over lifetime value and acquisition cost. Each engine requires different focus, different skills, different tuning. This is how product-market fit transforms from mystical art into science. You know you're approaching product-market fit when your experiments move your chosen engine's numbers in the right direction. Progress becomes tangible. From the tiny MVP to the grand pivot, from the build, measure, learn loop to the engines of growth, the lean startup provides a complete framework. It's a system for navigating innovation's deep uncertainty. It's a way to honor entrepreneurial vision not by blindly executing a plan, but by subjecting that vision to reality's rigorous, humbling, and ultimately liberating test. It's a method ensuring we don't just build things, we build the right things, things customers truly want that can grow into sustainable, world-changing businesses. As we wrap up our journey through the lean startup, I want to reflect on what I believe is its most powerful and perhaps most timeless message. At its core, this book makes a profound argument against waste, but not the kind we typically think about, wasted money or materials. The waste Ries cares most about is wasted human potential. It's the tragedy of taking people's time, passion, and skill and pouring it into projects doomed from the start. Peter Drucker famously said, "There is surely nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency what should not be done at all." Yet this is what so many organizations do every day. They efficiently execute flawed plans. They build beautiful products nobody wants. They celebrate hitting deadlines and budgets, while their creations gather dust. The lean startup offers an antidote. It redefines entrepreneurship not as a mystical gift for the chosen few, but as a form of management, a scientific discipline anyone can learn and practice. It gives us permission to be wrong, as long as we're willing to learn. It provides a framework for channeling creativity into its most productive form. The ideas we've explored, the MVP, the pivot, innovation accounting, the 5 whys, these aren't just tactics for tech companies. They're principles for navigating uncertainty in any field. Whether you're launching a nonprofit, starting a school club, developing a product inside a large corporation, or even trying to change your own life, the core loop remains the same. Build, measure, learn. Form a hypothesis, run an experiment, look at the data honestly, then decide whether to pivot or persevere. So how can you start applying these ideas right now? Let me offer 3 simple actions. First, think about an idea you have, a business, a project, or even a personal goal. Ask yourself, what's my biggest leap of faith assumption? What's the one thing that must be true for this idea to succeed? Write it down. Second, ask yourself, what's the absolute smallest, simplest, fastest experiment I could run, maybe even this week, to test that assumption? Don't think about building the whole thing. Think about creating a tiny piece of validated learning. Could you make a simple video like Dropbox? Could you offer your service to just one person? Your goal isn't launching, it's learning. Third, the next time something goes wrong, in a project, in your personal life, anywhere, resist the urge to find someone to blame. Instead, take a deep breath and ask, why? 5 times. Try tracing the problem to its root cause in the system or process. You'll be amazed at what you discover. This simple practice can transform a culture of blame into a culture of learning. The path of anyone trying to create something new is filled with uncertainty. It can be lonely and frightening. But this book gives us a compass. It doesn't show the exact route, but it provides a reliable way to find true north, make corrections, and know with confidence that we're making real progress. It teaches us to stop wasting people's time, most of all, our own. That was a summary of The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. We've touched on the big ideas today, but honestly, a summary can only ever be a map of the territory. The real treasure comes from walking the ground yourself. There are stories, details, and insights in the book we couldn't cover, moments that might speak directly to a problem you're facing right now. This summary helps you decide if this book deserves a place on your shelf. If anything we've discussed sparked curiosity, I wholeheartedly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new method. It's about adopting a new mindset that can fundamentally change how you approach building anything new. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a fresh perspective, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another transformative book. Let's keep learning and growing together.